Welcome to Make Something. I'm David Picciuto. Today I'm going to show you how to make the segmented popcorn bowl without a lathe, and today's video is brought to us by Squarespace. Check it. I got it. This is a project out of my latest book, Make Your Own Kitchen Tools. You can get signed copies of this book on my website. You can also get copies of this book at your local Woodcraft or Barnes & Noble. So I went to KenCraft and I got this piece of sapele. I really love the way sapele looks on segmented bowls. And so the first thing I need to do is cut the strips here at the table saw. We have all of our 1-inch strips cut. Now it's time to cut the angle for the segments. Each bowl has 6 rings. Each of the 6 rings has 12 segments. That means you got to set your miter gauge to 15 degrees or 105 degrees, depending on which way you're looking at it. There are a couple of ways to get your miter gauge to that degree. If your miter gauge has a protractor built into it, you can set it to 15 or 105, depending on which way you're looking at it. Or this is really handy to have in the wood shop. This is a digital protractor, and so I can set this to 105 degrees and then angle up my miter gauge. And you can also use that protractor that you had from high school, set a bevel gauge to that angle, and then transfer that to your miter gauge. And of course, you can also do this at the miter saw by moving your blade to 15 degrees. And of course, you want to set up your equipment to be as accurate as possible. But if your angle is not perfect, I'm going to show you how to fix that in a later step. All of these step-by-step directions are in the book, including all the measurements that you need. But of course, you could experiment. You could try this without the book. There are also online calculators that you can use to figure out all these measurements. So now it's time to glue the rings together. I'm only going to do 1/2 at a time. That way we can fix any kind of errors in the angle. And so what I'm doing is just taking some glue, rub them together, then add a little piece of tape. Don't worry too much about getting a lot of pressure on that. The strength doesn't come from these miters. The strength comes from the layers of the levels. That is dry, and as you can see here, a huge gap here, so this would not glue together very well. So I'm going to take this over to the belt sander and then sand these flats. I'll do them both at the same time. You could also do this with a disc sander. You could also do this with regular sandpaper glued to a flat surface and just rub it back and forth. And check that out, a perfect fit. So now we can glue these two halves together. That is the last one there. So that is going to go on there like that, but I need one more solid piece that's going to be the bottom. So I'm going to glue these two boards together and then cut a circle out on the bandsaw. Hello. So now I just need to center everything and glue it all up. I've never used this. This is dark wood glue. It's just what I'm using. I don't think it's necessary. I think just regular wood glue, the yellow stuff, the white stuff, will work just fine. Temporarily put a weight on here until that stops sliding around and kind of bonds. So I'll put that aside for a second, and then I'll just move on to the next pair. I think most regular lathe turners would glue this up on the lathe and use the tailstock to clamp everything together. Once I like that, and then just putting this weight on there for a minute really kind of bonds those together and keeps it from sliding. So now the goal is to clamp this all up. So I'm going to set this on this board, set this board on top of that, and then try to get some clamps on there. So that is now dry. And of course I could chuck this up and turn it on my lathe, and that's what we do in the book. But today I want to try something that I've never done before, and that is power carve with this angle grinder the outside and inside shape of the segmented bowl. But before I do that, I would like to tell you about today's sponsor, and that is Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to host your website and domain. I've been using Squarespace for many, many years. What year are we in?
It's Friday, November 26th, 2021.
That's bonkers. We are approaching 2022 very fast. Everybody should have a website in 2022, and Squarespace is the perfect place to do so. The templates are absolutely beautiful. The whole platform is super easy to use, and if you're like me, you're a crafter, or a maker, or a woodworker, or a metalworker, or an artist, and you want to show off your work, they have beautiful galleries, a ton of options to show off your image galleries. Squarespace is the place for you to set up your website. You're going to go to squarespace.com and you're going to start your free trial. You're going to play around with things a little bit. You're going to see how easy it is to use. And when you are ready to launch your website, you're going to go to squarespace.com/makesomething for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. It could be one central place for your personal brand. So again, squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, visit squarespace.com/makesomething for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So now we are going to head outside. I'm going to take this angle grinder and we're going to start shaping this bowl. This is an experiment. Hopefully I have enough wall thickness here to get what I want, and then maybe we'll add a texture to it. We'll just kind of see where it goes and where it takes us. So this is messy, so I'm gonna head outside and start power carving away. That came out really, really cool. I got that beautiful texture on the outside, and then on the inside, I tried to get rid of as much of that texture as possible, get it smooth, and that took a lot of work. I'll tell you about some of the tools that I use. I use the Arbortech Turboplane to do all of that rough shaping and to get the texture on the outside, and then on the inside I use this ball gouge to get the shape that I wanted. I did do some final shaping with this grinder. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. I'll have a link to everything that I use down in the description, but basically this is like a glorified Dremel. It does a lot more than a Dremel can do. It can take different size bits in there. You can have different handles or different tools on the end there, and it's foot powered. And it's a really cool tool if you want to add texture to your designs. And then I use the Arbortech contour sander to kind of sand the inside. That got me so far, and then I really had to just get in with my hands and some elbow grease and try to get that as smooth as possible. And then on the outside, I used these abrasive pads, the red, gray, and white ones, just to kind of smooth over the rough edges. I didn't want to get rid of that texture at all, so I just wanted to make it kind of nice to the touch. The plan was to use this wood bowl finish for the inside and outside, which is basically a polyurethane. And yes, you can use polyurethane on things that food touches. You just can't use polyurethane on food prep surfaces where you're using a knife. Polyurethane is food safe once fully cured, and it might take a couple weeks to fully cure. Anyway, I was going to use this General Finishes wood bowl finish, and then this showed up unexpectedly in the mail. This is the Total Bolt Wood Honey, and I've not used it. Total Bolt sends me stuff every once in a while, and I'm gonna try using that on this. This is a food safe wood finish. It does kind of look like popcorn butter, which is appropriate for this project. That came out really, really cool. Again, this is a project from my most recent book, Make Your Own Kitchen Tools, except in the book, we do it on the lathe. You can get this book on my website, makesomething.com. And if you're worried about getting this book in time for Christmas, check your local Barnes & Noble or Woodcraft stores. All of this mahogany came from my friends at Ken Craft. So I'm going to go in the house and make some popcorn. If you want to make movie theater style popcorn, you need a couple of special ingredients. One, you need this pure coconut popping oil. It is orange stuff. It turns your popcorn orange just like the movie theater. And then the other special ingredient is this weird flavor salt. It's like a yellow salt, and it only comes in this lifetime supply container. And then you need some golden delicious topping, and of course some kernels. Just search on YouTube on how to make movie theater style popcorn, and it really does taste just like the movie theaters. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again in a few days with a brand new project. As always, be safe, have fun, stay passionate, and make something.